Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Explorations of Brilliances series. I'm your host, Dr. Scott Lee, with a PhD in finance. This is part 2 of an interview I did with the brilliant Cloud Force. So if you haven't watched part 1, I suggest you go back to the previous episode and listen to that one. And if you have done so already, now the conversation with Cloud Force continues. My next question is, what is your definition of success and how has it evolved over the years?
That's a great question. I definitely had the thought that I wanted my life to be more on my terms and different than the way in which I grew up, which had been defined by the environment that my parents had chosen to live in. And then I think probably once went to college and started having the awareness of what was normal. Just maybe a little bit of background. I grew up in a very rural town, and my parents, neither of them ever had like success in their minds in the normal way of people looking at things, and so they were very much like back to the landers, which meant like living off of the land, and so they were very connected to nature, and to them living life was like foraging for food and spending time in nature and really just being in the moment of everyday life in a sense. So we never had any like material things when I was growing up in the traditional sense of it, nor was that something they were striving for. It was a gift to be able to figure out for my own self what was meaningful. And perhaps I was always drawn to do things because of it enabling me to experience more of the world. So I never even had in mind that I would go to college, but I'm really grateful that I always had like a strong curiosity for things. Luckily, I had really good grades and was able to go to college, but I never thought of it like, oh, I need to make good grades so I can go to college. It was just like, I'm just really enjoying learning about this subject, and the byproduct of that was making good grades. So when I decided to go to college, it wasn't because I wanted to be successful in any particular way. It was more just like I saw it as like a launch pad for getting to know the Bay Area and California, and like being in an environment that was more global than the one I had grown up around. And I chose Mills College because at the time when I was looking for colleges, I wanted to be a diplomat or an ambassador. Like I wanted to be even more connected with the global world. And I got really involved in politics my last year of high school and decided I didn't want to go that route. So I ended up at Mills not knowing what I was going to major in, but I'd always loved mathematics. And I saw that there was a discrete math class, and I was like, oh, I'll take that. I've never heard of it. It'll be fun to explore a new realm of math. And it was run by the computer science department. At the end of that class, she recommended I take a computer class, and I was like, I just learned how to use a computer to save my English paper on it. And she says, well, did you realize this is a computer science math class? I had no idea, but I really loved it, and my analytical part of my brain really matched well with it. So my Korean roommate was moving to another dorm in order to take over the room that her sister, who had just graduated, had lived in, and it was a lot nicer than ours. And as a way for us to be able to stay connected with one another, we decided to take this computer science class together. So we did, and then it just kind of kept rolling from there. And it's funny, I had this girl that I knew who was from a very successful, in the traditional sense, and very wealthy family. She said to me one day, are you just studying computer science because you want to be wealthy and successful in Silicon Valley? I was like, first of all, I had no idea that studying computer science would make someone wealthy, and I had never heard of Silicon Valley. So yeah, that never was my motivation. I think for me, success, which I didn't really think about, was always just like, how can I explore more of the world? How can I feel more connected to the world? How can I like encounter more humans that I relate to on a deeper level? That was always my driver. And then I think that once I got into the corporate world and I started seeing everybody around me, success to them is like on buying more things, there was a moment where I was like, oh yeah, I want to live in a nice neighborhood and things of that nature. But I've never thought of success for myself as wanting to climb up any kind of corporate ladder or anything. What I've been really passionate about, though, is creating things and also really elevating people around me in order to like realize whatever success meant to them too. and their dreams. And today, I would say it is really important to be able to live a life on your terms. So I think that it's important to find a way to make enough money in order to have an environment around you that feels supportive. But beyond that, I think that the true gems in life are really the humans that we encounter and the community that we're able to have around us. So for me, like, success is having a lot of friends that I really appreciate the humans that they are, and to me that feels, true wealth. And to be able to have an impact on the world, however big or small, is something that is very fulfilling to me.
Success on your terms, right? On your terms is important because okay, so success, it is on my terms. But sometimes when people think it's their terms, it's not really their terms. It's the terms programmed in them by the society, by the culture. It's not really your term. You know when it's your term when you actually feel like you're aligned with your mind, your heart, and your gut. You just feel good. Because at the end of the day, what are we after? When you were mentioning about the success and the materialistic things, external things, because it's easy to be seen, it's easy to be measured when it's external, right? Because you can see, you can feel, you can touch, you can hear, you can measure it. But the real success is internal, which is very hard to measure unless you really get to know someone, right? Know what kind of state they're in. Wait, who wants to be around with people who have a shitload of money, but just mean as hell? I don't think anybody wants to hang out that type of people, right? But sometimes when we go to a gathering, when we meet people we don't know, and we just say, hey, how come I feel so calm? How come I feel so calm and centered just around this individual? Just his or her presence. And that to me is definitely one type of a success. If you had the power to change one thing in the technology sector or the financial industry, what would that be and why?
Yeah, that's a big and great question. I don't have something specific. It's more like a general overall wish and desire, and that I would love to see different is for any of the founders and leaders within both tech and finance to really imagine the organizations that they are creating to be created for the greater good of all of the vendors that they use in order to produce whatever it is that they're creating, and also the experience of life that everybody who's working within their organization has, and the experience of their customers, their shareholders themselves. I think if it could be a focus on how can we create good in the world and for everyone across that value chain of creation, rather than people trying to make more money for themselves, for their shareholders. I mean, all of that is important, but I think the world would be a better place if people were looking at all aspects of it and really elevating everyone and having more of an abundance mindset rather than a scarcity mindset. It's very sad that so many mom and pop shops have closed down around the world because maybe they've been eaten up by larger corporations. If there's a way for less competition and more focus on just the creativity of things rather than like trying to beat other people out. If people could work together more as like a system for good, in the sense of we have people across the world, we only have one world that we're all working with, and how can we envision a way in which like the world and the nature that we exist and live within can be even healthier in order to support everybody in the ecosystem, and how can we like move everybody in a direction of living a more fulfilled life. I think that we could do that through corporations even more so than what we do today. Yeah, that would be my wish. Yeah, corporations have more of a focus on elevating the world around them as well as themselves.
You kind of answered the next question I want to ask you, right? How do you think individuals can contribute to a betterment of a society or make the world a better place? Yeah, you just said it really well. Personally, I agree. Instead of asking the world what it can do for me, we can always ask ourselves what we can do to the world, right? If we want to change the world, we got to be the change. I remember Michael Jackson's the song Man in the Mirror. Yes. And also John F. Kennedy said that ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. So with that type of mindset or attitude, together we'll be able to create an even more beautiful world. And it involves giving and receiving. And you mentioned that you feel sad that the small business owner, the mom and pop shops that got closed. I think corporations can bring efficiency and a better quality control if they stay committed to their original mission and then what they promised they would deliver to their clients. Again, it echoes what you have mentioned earlier about the intention we're giving out to the world, right? Making more money or live successfully and make it more enjoyable on your terms, that's probably a target, but what is our intention behind that? Is our intention behind that is that I want to get everything I wanted. I don't care about other people. So as long as I get it, you have something for me, then I'm happy to deal with you. And that's one type of intention, right? And that intention is not like to get a person far down the road. Even if that person is fiscally successful externally, I don't think that person would not likely to get real connection and love from people around him or her. Okay. But what is your philosophy on giving and receiving help? Because there's always this mutual exchange, right? How we can collectively make this world a better place.
Yeah, that's been a tough one in my life. So, because it was always the life that I wanted to live was so different than the life that my parents chose to live and path that they chose to live. I really had to realize from an early age, if I want anything in life that's different, what I have in front of me, then it's entirely up to me. Is like the patterning that I had for so many years. Because my parents are such lovely humans. They have great hearts, and they only ever just wanted me to be happy. And so there wasn't anything beyond that they had any opinion about. If my happiness meant I want to have a car so I can drive and explore more places, then it was going to be up to me in order to find a way to make enough money to buy a car. If I wanted to go to college, then it was going to be up to me in order to figure out a path for that. I have never really been very good at receiving help because it wasn't readily available to me in my life. And I think I just maybe got overly dependent on helping myself. And I'm so contribution driven too, that is like, okay, once I was able to help myself enough in order to propel myself somewhere new, like landing in San Francisco, for example, then I really focus on being able to help others. And I think that when you're able to have a journey for yourself, such as me learning how to help myself, you're able to help others. I felt like I had solid enough grounds. I landed in a place that I really appreciated, and I had enough internal success in a sense, or foundation, in order to be able to move beyond myself and really help others. That became my focus. And also, you asked earlier about what did I learn from the Tony journey too. Tony's very heart-centered and giving and contribution based, and he told some stories around how there was someone who was trying to help him, and he was like, no. And they said, well, don't deny me the privilege of being able to help you because it makes me feel good. And so I've been trying to be a little bit more open to allowing people to help me in different ways. But I'd say I'm just in the beginning of that journey because I'm used to doing everything myself.
Okay. I think this is a great topic for our next talk, giving and receiving. Mm-hmm. I just had some download. I think this is a great topic for us to dive in. I would love to dive in those layers for you and also for myself at this moment, but it's going to take another half an hour. So I just want to leave breadcrumbs here for the listeners and audience that we are going to do another talk. And I think this is a very important topic because collectively, when we are building a better world, we also got to be open to giving and receiving. Right. And sometimes giving and receiving, especially receiving, is the trust in others and trust in ourselves. And sometimes we don't feel comfortable because we have some limiting beliefs in us, and we don't want to receive because that evokes certain meaning that we assign to it that makes us uncomfortable. Right. That's why I think that this topic is going to be very interesting for us to deep dive later. So, Cloud, what does joy and fulfillment mean to you at this stage in your life?
Yeah, so for me, it is foundationally having people in my life that I really enjoy spending time with. It's also about creating space in order for me to be able to reflect so that I can continue just aligning all aspects of myself there and to not feel like I'm getting out of balance, moving too much in any one direction. I really am consciously trying to figure out how to live a life of harmony. And found like something that brings me huge joy is creating things and also creating it in scale in a sense by enabling others to create things. I've been having so much fun meeting with different entrepreneurs and hearing tell me about what it is that they want to create in life and helping them to truly become in alignment and create clarity around what it is they want to build and to create a compelling story in order for them to get seed investing so they can make their dreams become a reality as well. That's been really fun to do. So yeah, I get a lot of joy out of creating and supporting others, but I have the most fun when I'm in a deep conversation with a friend, often over like a good meal and in an environment that I appreciate. The aesthetics of all aspects of those really add a lot to the mix and add a lot to my enjoyment. So I feel like it doesn't take a lot for me to be happy, but those things are very foundational.
By the way, Cloud is a super connector. She has connected me with tons of talented entrepreneurs and just awesome human beings, right? So for those of you who wants to get to know, especially the audience, if you are young professionals in the tech industry or in the financial industry, or you just simply want to learn how to advance your career or make more connections and make your life more enjoyable and fulfilling, I highly recommend you connect with Cloud on LinkedIn. Follow her and then ask her for advice. Right. So Cloud, as we come to the end to our interview, thank you so much for sharing your stories and your experiences and then your hard journey with all of us. I want to ask you, is there something that you wish that you had done differently in your career or personal life?
Yes, many things. I'm trying to think of one to what would be kind of the biggest one.
Okay.
It just comes down to following my intuition more. I had such a high responsibility value trait. I'm not sure where it actually got created from, but I had these idle rules of, oh, if I'm a good person, then I have to be super responsible. And in being responsible, when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I think I had a lot of like rigid rules for myself that I wasn't even aware of in a sense. And once I started to deepen my awareness of like what good is the societal rules and structures and everything that have been created, but more just your internal energy and direction to pay attention to that a little bit more. I think I would have had created a little bit more mess. I don't know if that quite makes sense, but my bar of excellence is really high. Like I did an assessment test once called IDI, and out of 1 to 100 it was like 99%. Am I obsessed with excellent? Very much a perfectionist, etc., which serves you well sometimes, but I do feel like in order to have massive breakthroughs and kind of aha moments, you have to get a little creative and messy sometimes and try different things. Totally, you've probably heard this many times before about fail more and things of that nature. I think that because I relied on myself so much in order to get to the little place where I'm at, I was so scared of failure because I think that to me it was sort of unacceptable in a sense. I've loosened my grip on that quite a bit, and I think I would have had a much more, I'm very happy with my life now, but I think I would have had a much more rich and maybe varied and deeper life, varied experiences if I had just decided to be a little bit messier, a little bit more creative, take more risks, and things of that nature. Things could have looked a little bit different, but I can't think of any regrets though that I have. But I do feel like because I love exploration so much, I think perhaps I could have seen and done even more in terms of variety perspective.
Okay. So to summarize that up, if you could offer one piece of advice to your younger self, what would that be? for the younger self?
Everything that you need is within you now is really what I would share.
Okay, that's beautiful. Okay, so Cloud, the last question is, what is the legacy you wish to leave behind, both professionally and personally in your life?
Okay. Yeah, I've never been someone who really was looking at how to make a legacy or anything. I very much love being behind the scenes and helping elevate people and what it is that they want to do. So I don't think it would be that every human I encounter, even from the baristas that I interact with, or dear friends that are in my life, or people, coworkers that I spend a lot of time with. Yeah, it's just like if each of their lives can be elevated a little bit more from like my experience and being a part of it, then that to me would be a really fulfilling thing to have like on my deathbed to think back on.
Okay, that's beautiful. Well, we come to the end of our interview with the amazing Cloud Force, and some of you probably still in the trance and still listening to Cloud and the wonderful stuff that she has shared with us. And I want to tell you the good news is this is not going to be the end of our conversation here. Okay. So if you really liked our conversation today, Cloud and I are going to continue our conversation on specific topics from this point on. We want to really discuss the most recent happening in California, in the United States, and around the world, because our intention behind this new series that we're creating is, think about this. Where do most of us get information these days? Right? From your phone, from TV, from any tablets and computers, internet, right? What are those information from? Usually from news media or from the advertisement that is promoted by the marketing agencies out there. So when you see a problem, challenges, there are so many of them in the world. For example, the homeless population in San Francisco is one of them, right? Both Cloud and I live here in the Bay Area. You are not going to be able to, and this is my personal perspective, to find any solutions from what you see from the news, because all they want to do is talk about who's wrong, who's right, and who's not doing their job. That's why we have the situation. But Cloud and I want to discuss these things, use the knowledge and the tools, the strategies that we have acquired for the past decades, combined to really help you to find the root cause of these problems and challenges and issues, that how you can use them to empower yourself, find empower meanings of these events, so that if you want to change the world, make the world a better place, how you can become that change now, today.
Yes.
All right. So that was a little bit promotion marketing piece for our future talks, because I know some of you are going to continue this journey with us. And it's such a privilege and honor here to interview Cloud and then to share the amazing content with all of you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. And I'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Scott. Bye.
Bye, Cloud. All right, everyone. Stay tuned for the next episode. Until then, follow your passion and live strong.